Right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Royal Ascot brunch, where everybody, of course, is tuning in for my knowledge, and I've just got a couple along to fill the place out and make it, interesting. But I know it's all my red hot, shit hot tips you're waiting for. Get the wheelbarrows out, get ready to fill them up. But let's say good morning to my two distinguished guests first. Morning, Andy. Lovely.
Good morning.
Good morning, to see you. And Mark, amazing. You're still living in that same house, you two. It's clever.
Well, it's a big house, you see. We've been writing all them systems down that you've been giving away. We've got a bigger house now.
The day I'll be impressed is when one of you walks over and plays the old Joanna in the corner. That's when I'll be impressed.
The day that happens is I can play one tune on the piano.
Yeah. So it is. What can you play on the piano? Hang on, I'm not having this.
Norwegian Wood. Would you believe?
What?
Norwegian Wood. Beatles song.
How does it go?
I can't remember how it goes now. I could play it, but I'm not sure I can anymore.
Bollocks, and
yeah,
it's all bollocks, I tell you.
I can play the sting. I can play the sting on the piano. The thing tune to the sting. I can't play that.
Well, you'll have to come round and have a go then.
I was taught that at school and I've never forgotten it. Right, let's say good morning to. We've got a few in. We have got about 30 odd people live with us. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Lee Stanley. Hope you're well. Morning, Martin in Lincoln. Hope you're well. Paul Finnegan. Oh, don't trigger. Morning there, Paul Finnegan. Lovely to see you. That name triggers these two guys. Benjamin, lovely to see you. Manus, hello. Joe, hello. Yeah, Joe, I haven't forgotten. Joe, well, just got to interrupt. Joe, I haven't forgotten you. I will sort that out shortly. I need to speak to Joe. I've just ignored him, basically. Daniel Erridge, lovely to see you. See you soon. Ian Cowan, hi. ADB, back from the taxi run last night. Daniel, lovely to see you, Daniel, as always. Neil, Nitesh, morning, Mike. Alan Hendes, hello. Adel, Baxon, lovely to see you. Gaz, lovely to see you. Steve, lovely to see you. Do feel free, guys, to comment in the chat. Do feel free to ask questions. We are going to go through all 6 cards at Royal Ascot. I'm going to give you the shit hot tips. Andy's going to give you some race analysis with perhaps some trade mentions, back delays, later backs, I don't know. And the guy down the bottom of my screen, I don't know where he's on yours, Mark, you're going to do some race spot action and lucky 15 action?
Lucky for 15 of play spots, yeah.
Yeah, lovely, beautiful. And obviously people will all have their own views on the races. Morning, Lee Park. Come on, you Spurs. Let's have it. We'll see, we've pulled out a sign in David Ray. I'm quite pleased about that. I don't think he's very good. But there we go. But Spurs fans, we must sign someone. Anyway, let's get to the racing. We are starting with the 2:30 at Ascot. It all kicks off. We will be here every single day this week. We're going to do every race. The 2:30 is the Queen Anne Stakes. We've got Modern Games leading the. Hang on, I've even got notes here. I've lost them. I've lost them. Good start. I've lost my notes already. We've got Modern Games heading the market with Buick on board at 3.3. Inspiral Dettori, always a favourite at Ascot at 3.8. Native Trail James Doyle at 8.6. Chindit 13.5. The rest up for me haven't got a chance. Inspiral's not been seen for about 250 days. Modern Games won the Lockinge. Native Trail had wind surgery back end of last year. Don't think he's run as well since from what I watched this morning. And the one I like, who likes it here, and I always like to go for a bit of a price, I'm going for Chindit, who was second to Modern Games in the Lockinge. I am going for Chindit at 13.5. to get us off to a good start, put the old big stables in their box. Pat Dobbs waving his arms as he crosses the line, miles clear, like a marathon runner. He's going to be like that. And Andy's going to tell me I'm bang on, spot on right, aren't you, Andy?
Well, before we get going, and it is the going I want to talk about. Because they have had some rain there this morning, so I'm not completely convinced about the ground. I still think it will ride on fairly quick because they've probably left a good cover in the grass on it, but they did water yesterday and then got 10 millimeters of rain overnight, which I don't think was expected. I don't think it'll have a major effect, but it's something you need to keep an eye on. And before I say that, just a word about Mr. Moore and Mr. Dettori today, because they could go through the card between them. It is possible. If you are doing anything today, and I have done it, I've just done the old Frankie multiple, because if the price is, if he has the first couple of winners, which isn't impossible, or a winner early on, all the prices will collapse. So there's a little tip for you. So if he does have a few winners early on, those later prices are going to absolutely collapse. The bookmakers will be absolutely shitting themselves of him having several winners this week in multiples, because I imagine people do that every single day. And Ryan Moore, somebody put 11 to 10 up for him to be top jockey at the meeting, which was like finding money on the street, basically. He's now 7 to 4 on. Before we get into that, right, Chindit. He was the runner-up in the Lockings. The Lockings winner has got, the Lockings as a whole has got a really good record in this. Chindit, when he's run at this level, Group 1, his form figures read 9th, 5th, 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 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 2nd. So at best, I could see him getting in the frame. Inspiral has drifted a little bit this morning. I'm not surprised to see Modern Games as favourite. Modern Games obviously won the Lock-ins. You meet most of the trend selections. I'll give you a few of those to throw in. 4-year-olds have held sway in this event. His form at a mile reads first, second, second, first. So he's pretty strong. There's 4 Group 1 winners in this. 16 of the last 20 winners have struck at this level already. Of the 2 at the front end of the market, I'd prefer Modern Games to Inspiral. She has got some negative trends to overcome. I think they might have had a problem with her. They certainly did last year getting her ready. This is her first run of the campaign. I've just wondered whether the round course suits her better here. She disappointed in the QE2 and over the straight course last autumn when she was 5th as 11 to 10 favourite. I'm just sort of slightly worried about that. That would worry me about backing her. There isn't an O'Brien horse, which is a bit of a shame. If you're looking for one at a price, Triple Time is a really interesting outsider. Got a very good record fresh. Kevin Ryan's been in decent form this year. And the record at a mile reads 3 firsts and a 7th, which you could probably forgive. Neil Callan back from Hong Kong is riding really well at the moment. I think 44 in the exchange is actually too big at the moment. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Cash run a decent race either. But Native Trail, he was a very, very good juvenile in 2021. His form at a mile reads well. They've got him back anywhere near his form. He's probably a little bit overpriced. He would be the one I'd probably try and trade. If you have to ask me to pick one out of the front 2, I'd be in Modern Games' corner over Inspiral. And if you want one at a price, Triple Time is probably one for a couple of quid poke, but it's not a race I want to get over involved with.
Okay, yeah. Modern Games Chindit reverse forecast. There you go. I do think Modern Games is. I think it is Modern Games and one other, and I think it will be Chindit. There. That do you see that little list of where it's finished was coming down. The last one, second hand. It's just had a little one on the end there.
Right. Okay. So, yeah.
Mark, have you got any views on this race? Chindit. Oh, right, okay, move on. Let's go. All right.
If I was going about the one of the 2 favourites, I'd be with Modern Games. It did win the Lock-ins pretty impressively. I won't be. I'm not a favourite backer. I never have been. Inspiral, I think it's a bit too short for what it is at the moment. Personally, I'm having a go at a couple of outsiders in this. It's not a race I'm overly keen on. I'll be back in, and I cannot say that. Andy, can you help with the name of this thing? This Mutasabek? Is it that right?
Mutasabek.
Yes. I'll be back in that. That thing probably will be going from the front. It couldn't dictate in the Lock-ins, but it has won doing it the hard way. And the other one, just for a small each way for me, it won the Coventry in 2021, is Berkshire Shadow, and it's got the resident Ale Canon, Ossene Murphy. So hopefully he's not been out on the tiles last night. And that they will be my 2 selections for this race.
Right, okay. So you've got Mutasabek and Berkshire Shadow. Andy thinks Modern Games will probably win, but Triple Time and maybe Native Trail Trade. And I am Chindit from Modern Games. No one fancy Berkshire Shadow for a place, Alan? Yes, just give us a chance to finish, son. Our man down here from Wigan's just said it. Right, and we'll come back to...
Alan knows what he's talking about, that's why. Alan knows what he's talking about.
I want to know how he got on with his dancing lessons, Alan.
Alan knows what he's talking about. Well,
yeah.
Let me tell you, I've seen him in some states, and I'm not quite so sure. I've seen him not able to talk. And Benjamin Cash pisses up in this. Big statements with a jockey upgrade of Spencer getting off him. Okay, well, we'll see if Cash pisses up in this. Right, so next is the 305. which is the Coventry. We've seen a little bit of fallout, I believe, on Twitter with Simon Rowlands and some
Johnny
other tips. Johnny
Yeah.
Deneen.
There's two Twitter camps, and they're I don't know, just fed up with it now.
And they seem to keep me spatting away.
Boring.
Alan said his dancing is getting better, but not yet worth watching. And the market tells us River Tiber's favourite with a Sadna 4.2, and then the next is 12.5 bar on the exchange. Chinned it, but if you would like to say it about you, you'll get chinned in a minute. All you Northerners come up, the old headbutt, FDS headbutt. I've had a quick look at it. O'Brien's won this 9 times. I think they're going to make it 10 times. I think River Tiber will win this relatively comfortably, to be fair. There's half the field have got no chance anyway. But I am going for, I'm not like you, Mark, I'm not a big favourite man, but I do think River Tiber will win this. Andrew?
Well, the Twitter, and so I saw Dan ask me which side I was on of the River Tiber as saddened with the debate. Probably none, because I'm just bored with it, basically. Just two people fucking willy waving. Sorry for swearing. Willy waving on Twitter, basically. And they both contradicted themselves, to be quite honest with you. So, to be honest with you, I would probably be slightly in the River Tiber camp, but I don't like the draw in 6. He's the only. I mean, you have to trust Aidan O'Brien in this. I mean, he had 5 5-day entries in this, and he's chosen that one. He don't get too much wrong, does he? And as you've said, Ian, he has won this 9 times in the last 26 years. They won 10 lengths on his debut. It was pretty impressive. Everybody thought he was wrong bringing it back to 5 furlongs last time out. It still won. Sadler was impressive on the clock and probably visually as well at Ripon. Wouldn't be my place to run a 2-year-old first time out, but it was pretty impressive. I got a feeling there's something lurking here at a big price, and I went through them all. There was a few that I sort of want to play in the extended place markets. I wouldn't rule out Give Me the Beat Boys. That got sold for 1.1 million last night at the sales.
Who bought it on there? Who bought it?
Well, hang on a minute. I can tell you in a minute if you let me read it. If I find an email an email that I had last night.
This is like a Trump interview. He's asked him a tough question.
You have asked me. Yeah, you have asked me. I just can't remember the name of the people who bought it last night. But they did actually buy it last night. It went for 1.1 million. Who bought it? It was sold to Bronson Racing for 1.1 million last night. Bronson Racing. 1.1 million that went for last night. So it runs in different colours. So again, I'm not that keen on the lower draws in 7. If there were a couple here that I quite like, Spanish Phoenix is quite interesting. That's 110, but it would only be sort of place markets. I rarely bet in 2-year-old races until we start the nursery season. And Emperor's Son, I know someone who looks quite close to the far yard who they think this is their best 2-year-old, and considering they had a very good 2-year-old winner here last year, then they think it's better than that. They would be 2, but I'm not really keen on. I can't say I'm keen on anything in this particular race. Just be a race I'd want to watch more than anything else. If anything, Give Me the Beat Boys is probably a little bit overpriced now. And if I had to have a couple of stabs at things in the place market, Emperor's Son and Spanish Phoenix, but
okay, just before you go, Mark,
I'd be happier to. Yeah, man, I mean, they've all. I mean, everything in here has won. I think everything has at one time won a race. So, I say they're just couple of stabs, and I wouldn't. Not a race I'd be particularly interested in.
Yeah.
Apart from who ends up on the right end of the Twitter spat.
Yeah,
quite amusing.
Again, if I had to pick one of the 2 favourites, it would be River Tiber. The other thing that won at Ripon, my dog can win at Ripon. So, but yeah, it was impressive on the clock. it's a very, very small play for myself, and I'm just taking on bobsleigh each way. Very, very, very small bet on here. I did look at the Johnson thing, the Politico front runner, but just the stats might be a little bit against it.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, I think River Tiber, but as you say, it's not a race. So I'm going to have I'm not.
It won't surprise me if something at an absolute massive price won this. It's happened before. It's 2-year-old. They improve very, very quickly for.
So we had 150 to 1 winner in the COVID year, didn't we? The 2020, Nando Parado.
Yeah,
that was the first horse in the last 34 years to win this race whilst losing its maiden tag.
So thanks for sharing that at the time. Thanks ever so much. Cheers. Another one I didn't get. Yeah, lovely. Thanks ever so much. I'm really pleased for you. I'm delighted for you.
I backed it. I certainly didn't back it.
Right. So moving on to the King's Stand at 340. I'm bullish about Frankie in this race. I think Monacan will run a really good race. I am all over Monacan in the 340 King's Stand. I'm not even looking at anything else. That's it.
Is that easy? Are you?
I'm done. That's it. Monacan.
Right. Okay. Interesting races. You got a couple of Australian horses in this. One's called Cannonball, and the other one's Kula Nagata. The better of the two is certainly the second one. She's a filly. She won 5 out of 8. She won a Group 1. The Group 1 record's really good. Don't worry about the jockey James McDonald, because he's got an absolutely superb Royal Ascot record. So 4 winners here already. Really good jockey as a Kiwi, but he rides in Australia usually. She's a real 5 furlong specialist. Must admit, not really. The draw's a little bit of a worry. Stall 2, I'm not sure about that. But there is a bit of speed in stall 1 from Twilight Gleaming to follow. People I know who know Australian racing far better than I do think she's got a really good chance. It'll be the 6th time, if she did win, it'll be the 6th time the Aussies have actually won this race, which will be about the only thing they're winning today, because they ain't winning the cricket, I tell you that. Then move on. Dramatised, second favourite. I think I said this as soon as she went past the post when she won the Temple. I just thought she was massively advantaged that day. I don't know what had happened to the watering can at Haydock that day, but they'd managed to screw it up as they usually do there, and there was a massive stand side advantage. Yes, she's got a good 5 furlong record, but there were horses she beat that day. The 5th Mitbahi, the 6th Happy Romance, and the 9th Twilight Calls. They were all really poorly drawn. They had absolutely no chance from where they are. To be quite honest, I'd back any of those 3 against her at the prices they are now. They are massively overpriced against her. She might go and win this. If she goes and wins this, good luck to her. But I couldn't back her at 6 to 1 now. Monacan ran well in the Group 3 Palace House from stall 1. That was a really good run, because the winner and the second were drawn 12 and 13. Don't believe what you read in some of the press, because they've got the draws wrong there, because they don't take out the non-runners, which I always do, and otherwise you get a stupid result. The fourth was from stall 14, so it was a really good runner for Monacan. Was 5th in a handicap here last year off a mark of 100. Has twice won over course and distance. In fact, Twilight Calls ran in that same race that Monacan ran in. Price is probably just about as low as I would want to go at the moment. Mitbahi ran well from a poor draw in the Abbey last year. Good return in the Group 2 Temple, as I've just mentioned, behind Dramatised. Probably the type who needs a real pace collapse. The sort that you could see running a big race. If the pace collapsed, the sort of thing that you would think that's traded a big price in running. So I would probably try and back that at a big price in running. Don't like the American thing, Twilight Gleaming. Twilight Calls, I like the horse. I've got a lot of time for him, but he needs 5 furlongs and fast ground. So I'm going to hold off and time the first couple of races to see how soft it is, or if the rain's got in. But if it is quick ground, he hated the ground on his he hated the ground. It was poorly drawn in the Palace House. He had a horrible draw in the Temple last time out. He was second in this last year off to Nature Strip, who was the 5th Australian winner of this. And Nature Strip actually got beaten by Coolanagatta in a Group 1 at Flemington last time out. So her form reads really well. Twilight Calls I like. There's only been 3 favourites have won this in the last 28 years. So Highfield Princess, I mean, you've got to love her. She's a good horse, but I couldn't be backing her at that price. I think I would probably, I'm going to hold off backing Twilight Calls, but I do like the horse. I think anything 20s plus is a big price if the ground stays quick. Watch Mitbahi if they go a real gallop, that's the sort of thing that could come and win from off the pace. And to be honest with you, the Australian thing is probably a reasonable price now. The one I don't like at the prices is Dramatised, and the other, and I wouldn't even leave out Happy Romance at 50s plus, because I do think all of those 3 that ran in that Temple Stakes at Haydock, go and have a look at it. Dramatised whips up the stand side rails, and all those other 3, Mitbahi, Happy Romance, Twilight Calls, are marooned on the far side of the track. They're absolutely no chance. They were just on the wrong part of the track. So a few darts there. Twilight Calls if it stays as it is. I'd even have a dip at Happy Romance at big prices on the exchange. And if I had to pick one at the front end of the market, I'd probably go with the Australian thing, although I'd probably respect your chance with Manacan as well. I think it might, if Frankie has a one in Spiral or Give Me the Beat Boys win, Manacan's going off shorter than the 9.6.
Yeah, no, that's true. Just before you jump in, Callum, trying to be funny, hey? Look more like Manacan after I've done my nuts in the first 2 rounds. I don't even know what to say to that.
There'll be a few people disappearing off FTS soon, won't there?
We can soon have a clear out, Andrew. There's always time for clear outs. And then Steve Williamson, morning, Steve. The lady who opened a donkey century was from Manacan. Let's hope it's not a sign. He's actually posted that twice, so just wanted to make sure I saw it. One with a smiley face, one without. And then Benjamin has asked, do you think the pace will collapse here, Andy? Loads want to go forward here.
That's why. But I wouldn't back Mitbahi at that price. You've got to take a bit of a chance sometimes. But would I back it at 20s? Probably not. Probably take a chance and back it in running. But I do think there could be a pace collapse here. Yeah, there is a lot of pace on.
Okay.
For me, right. I think the favourite is the correct favourite. Like I said earlier, I won't be getting involved with it. Totally agree on Dramatised. It did get it basically run on concrete. Everything else running slop at Haydock that day. So that is a no-no for me. I'm going to go slightly against Andy here. I fancy this quite a bit actually. I think Twilight Gleaming wins this. If the rain hasn't got in the ground, it'll blast out in front. If you could potentially use it as a back to lay. It happens in sprint races, something Andy taught me. They can get carried over. The pace just continues to go. It's 5 furlong. It has run here before at Royal Ascot. I think it was at the Queen Mary a couple of years ago. It was second. Yeah. And I just think at the price, if it doesn't win, I think it will still get a place at 20s. So Twilight Gleaming for me for the piano-toothed Wesley Ward.
Right, so Twilight Gleaming for you, Manacan for me, and Twilight Calls is your favourite one in that.
Yeah, it needs to stay. You know, if the rain's got in the ground, I'll probably back off or just have a very, very modest stake on it. I do like the horse. Okay,
and then we move into the 420, the St James's Palace Stakes. The market really has it between 2, Chaldine, the 2,000 guineas winner, and Paddington, the Irish 2,000 guineas winner. Don't know whether any of you give Isaac Shelby or Cicero's Gift a bit of a squeak. I think I've not got a massive view in it, but I'm going to go. I love marmalade sandwiches, so I'm going with Paddington to collar Chaldine. There you go. So
I thought you were going to say
you better say Mike is Paddington Burr, aren't you?
You are such an idiot.
I thought you were going to say it's because you had a duffel coat.
Yeah, and a red hat.
He did be dragged on the floor when he walked.
Yeah.
Too long.
Just before you two go, so I am going with Paddington to do Chaldine. Andy, Alan, fresh off Dancing from Ice, thinks Mostabshire to upset the top 2. Right, Andrew.
Interesting. I'll start there then with Mosta Bashir. He's a real fast improver, but he's completely untested at this level as he ran in a Group 3. He was 5th of 7 in the Group 3 Craven. The stable were in poor form at the time. The novice at York, if you're a sectional time fan or bore, depending on which camp you're in, it did show a really good turn of foot there. The last 3 furlongs, it ran in 33.34 off a really slow pace. The second and the fourth have both won next time out, admittedly only handicapped. So it's got some improvement to do, but I wouldn't totally write it off, especially as trainer John Gosden has won this 3 times before. And 2 of those have come here with just 3 runs. They were without Parole and Palace Pier, one in 2018 and 2020. They were both rated about 109 before. Musa Bashir's rated 108. So if there were to be an upset, he has got form. He's got previous Mr. Gosden in this, so I wouldn't totally write that one off. To deal with the front 2, well, you actually nearly had the winner of the Guineas, because it's calling it the English Guineas is total bollocks. It was the Guineas, because there is only one. It's like people call it the Epsom Derby. There's only one Derby. And the Irish Guineas, and Isaac Shelby was second in the French 2000 Guineas on softer ground as well, and the 3rd in that one next time out. I'm not convinced about Isaac Shelby's overall form. I quite like Paddington. Again, it's a little bit short for me to be backing. If there is an overpriced one, I think it's Cicero's Gift. He's won all 3 starts. That was a really good performance at Goodwood last time out. Showed a really sharp turn of foot. There was quite a lot of money around for this in the anti-post markets. He got really backed in, and then it seemed to have drifted.
It got hammered in, didn't it? It was first.
Yeah, and then it's drifted back out. I think as the money's come for I think everyone seems to call this horse Chaldine, but I think it's Caldine or something. I've seen various pronunciations of it. Anyhow, reads Chaldine to me. I quite liked his run there in the Guineas when he won that, but I prefer Paddington of the 2, but I wouldn't have a strong view. I think if I'm going to have a bet in this, I'm going to have a little chip at Cicero's Gift, because I just think he's a little bit overpriced in relation to the front 2/3 in the market. As I say, the whole day is not a particularly strong betting day for me, but double figure prices, I think Cicero's Gift's a little bit overpriced. But if you ask me to pick out the front 2, at the prices, I'd pick Paddington over Caldine, because I think the form of the Irish Guineas is stronger than the form of the Guineas.
So,
right, Mark.
For me, I think the form of both Guineas isn't a vintage year, I wouldn't say, for either. The only thing I would say about Paddington is, I think, Andy, you'll have seen this. They went an absolute crawl in that Guineas in the Irish one. Now, anyone who knows anything about racing, if you go a crawl and you get the front, and when it turns into a sprint, a lot can get caught up from behind, can get caught out, get caught flat-footed. The one that I'd be going for at quite a large price, it's been second to both Caldine, whatever it's called, and Chaldine and Paddington, is Galaron at a really big price. It finished 3rd in Ireland, and it was 5th in our Guineas on heavy going. He got caught flat-footed in Ireland. It actually run on quite well when it turned into a sprint. It was only beaten 3 lengths, and I just think at them prices it could very well run into a place.
Okay, so Paddington for me, and if he was forced to pick one, I think would go with Paddington, but may trade Cicero's Gift. Cicero, not Cicero, Cicero. Roman lawyer, Julius Caesar, Shakespeare.
True.
And you are Galaron, James McDonald, previously mentioned by Andy. Right, best of luck. Right, next one. We're up. This is wheelbarrow.
I'll just tell you now. This 5 o'clock, I have got the winner, so we can.
So have I.
Well, I hope it's.
I was just going to say I am wheelbarrow's full here. This is wheelbarrow's full.
Well, you two go first, then, and I'll sit out the back.
Well, I'm going to go last now. I'm going to let you go.
Right, the winner of this, and basically at 5:20 today, you can collect your money, turn off the TV, close your laptops, and book flights to Barbados. Because this has won. It's Fleurman for me.
Oh, behave yourself. Behave yourself.
Fleurman wins this quite easily. It's fill your boots, as you would say, Ian. For me, it went hurdling last year. It didn't have a very strong hurdling campaign at all. I don't think it took to it very well. Since then, it's had 2 runs at Newcastle. They're both quite impressive. It won one, and the second one, they actually were 3 seconds within the standard time, which is quite quick. It was second on that day. I think the longer trip will suit it. For me, it's a strong steer at the prices. I think it's very, very. I think it's overpriced at what it is. Having a quick look at the top of the market, we've got the Moore and Mullins factor. Yes, it won quite well here last year. I do think it's a little bit too short. It wouldn't surprise me if it did win, but it's just too short for me. The only one at the top of the market that I looked at was what was the bank called? America, horse with no name. From Henderson's Yard. That's not a bad price at all. They had 2 good wins on the flat last year, and it won at Cheltenham at 2 mile 4 as well. So I think that's a decent shout. But quite simply, Fleurman wins this race, and it's game over for Royal Ascot till next year.
Right, just before we go to you, Andy, because obviously there's some serious drinking or drugs going on. I've never done drugs in my life, but we're having ridiculous statements from the screen. We've got Alan Parr. I mean, Alan, I can't remember where you are. I think it's somewhere Middle Earth-wise. God knows what you've been snorting since 6 o'clock this morning to come out with this. And then Alan Hendes, who is probably still on the Fosters, urban artist, to put in a good run at 80. This is going to be a serious show. I've got to go back. See, this is the effect I have. The 340. Literally, I've only mentioned it 10 minutes ago. Monacan. They've paid the old stable. Take it out. Ian's tipped it up. We're going to get cleaned out. They fucking removed it from the race. See, this is what happens. I said, right, that's wins instantly now, because William Miller watching this and Ladbrokes, they're all panicking. They've had a full-on panic job, whipped it out. So I've got to have another one for that. My second was the one you went with, Mark. I don't like agreeing with you, but I do think Twilight Gleaming will run a really good race in that 340. But I was quite
I've been on the old Carrots and the old American.
I was quite keen on Monacan. So whatever I mention in this, when I give you the winner of this in a bit, this will probably be pulled out next. So
are you going to mention it now, or are we waiting?
Do you want me to go? Or do you want to go?
No, after
Right. Well, I like 3 in the race. The one I am going for, that is going to be like Fleurman will be looking at his arse all the way down, is Zoffy. I think Zoffy's going to run a good race. I also like another horse coming out the Chester Cup, Call in the Wind. I think both those horses are going to run better for their Chester Cup performances. So Zoffy from Call in the Wind, and if you want the tri-cast, throw Novel Legend in there. I think that will run a big race as well. But Fleurman will be out the back as those 3 stream clear. Zoffy just nicking it, Call in the Wind coming in second. Novel Legend looked like he's going to win, but those 2 duck past it at the end. That's it. Move on now. You can go and get your wheelbarrows, everybody.
Right, okay. Well, we got Andy, the first handicap of the meeting. It's actually probably the most punter-friendly handicap of the meeting, because 12 of the last 14 winners have been sent off no bigger than 14-1. And the last 33 years, as many as 22 winners have been found in the first 6 in the betting. So it's has been that. Now, I look at you might think I'm absolutely crazy here, but over 2 miles 4. Now, there used to be a real draw bias in it when there was 30 runners in it. They cut the safety limit to 20. But even with 20 runners in it, of late, the low numbers have fared best. 4 of the last 7 winners are drawn no higher than stall 6. And last year's 1, 2, 3, 4 came from the lowest 7 stalls. In fact, the first 6 were drawn no higher than 11 in 2021. So that, bringing that into play, does make you look at Bring On the Night at 3.2. Now, weighing that against the fact that it is trained by Mr. Mullins, who's won this 4 times since 2012, and he's also had 4 runner-ups. It's an interesting horse. Now, he was second in this last year, when he ran into Coltrane, and Coltrane is one of the 14 declared for the Gold Cup this year, and he's favourite. So it weren't a bad run, but he is drawn in stall 15, which slightly worries me. Now, National Hunt Trainers have got a really good record in this, and it's not surprising, is it, seeing it's run over 2 bowls 4, admittedly with no hurdles. And Mr. Henderson, Popeye as I refer to him, has got a good chance in this with Horse with No Name. I'm not that keen on the weight she carries. She's actually in foal to Cracksman. She was 5th in the Cesarewitch last year. This is one of the last times they can run her, because you can only run horses once they're declared in foal 90 days afterwards. So I think this will be her last race. I'd certainly have her on the short list from stall 7 with Billy Buick on board. Ian Williams, another trainer I've got a lot of time for, has got 4 in this. Zinc White, Law of the Sea, Grand Vizier and East Asia. The first 2 are probably his 2 better chances. Law of the Sea was been really well backed. Again, the draw would be slightly off-putting for me. He was 4th in the Chester Cup, where he didn't settle in that race. Second last time out of Haydock was a little bit disappointing to behind Solent Gateway, a horse I have a long and checkered history with. And Zinc White actually beat Novel Legend in the Chester Plate, which is the consolation race for that. All of that brings me round to, I think, Mark mentioned Fleur-Man. He's quite interesting, actually. I've got him on a list for because he's run 2 good races at run 2 good races on Peter Surface and 2 good races at Newcastle. I thought they would aim him more at the Northumberland Plate. So it's quite interesting he comes here. From stall 6, I certainly wouldn't write him off.
They're doing the double, you see. The winner and then
could do, but I wouldn't totally write him off. I quite look. You've got to respect the favourite, but I couldn't back him at that price. If he goes and wins at 3.2, I'm not going to be crying over it. I'm not a backer of those sort of prices. Not with that draw stat against him. The 2 I like the best: the Novel Legend and a Horse with No Name. There's a slight weight stat against the Horse with No Name. I'd like to see with a little bit. Like to see her with a little bit less weight, but Novel Legend at sort of 9.2, 9.4, and a Horse with No Name 11, 11.5. Yeah, I could probably trade both of those quite successfully, and that would be where I'd go. I think there's better handicaps. This is usually one of my favourite handicaps, but it's not really panned out this time, and I think there's better handicaps later in the week. So a couple of modest plays on those 2: Novel Legend and a Horse with No Name.
Right, lovely. Fleur-Man, honestly. People are tuning in to watch this. I thought I was right when I said he was from Middle Earth. There you are, Derby, see. I know he was from Middle Earth. And Scott, I think this is in relation to my Monacan being pulled out. You can see why Scott's not in stand-up comedy. Scott, Steve Williamson, I think similar with, like the same as the Dettori effect, I'm sure, because everybody, but obviously, I think if Ryan Moore starts riding winners, other horses that he is on will shorten, and that's quite a good I think it's one that Peter Webb's talked about before, that you just, as soon as they cross the line, look at their rides, and you can back them and get out before the race even starts if you want to nick a few quid. Right, so we are on to, where do we get to? The 5:35. The 5:35. I'm all over this, and I see another professional production. It's like watching ITV racing, isn't it? The Wolferton Stakes. I've got 2 in this that I like. I'll go first. King of Conquest and Francesco Clemente. Francesco Clemente is better off £3 this time, but I still think King of Conquest with Buick on board is the one for me in this. So now I'm down B&Q getting my second wheelbarrow. Now I've filled the first one. Now down getting the second one for King of Conquest in this race. As that beautiful blue colours cross the line in first place. Right, Andrew. I can't have him. We gave him prime spot last time and he messed it right up.
Okay, right. So this is the 6th year of this being a listed race rather than it used to be a listed handicap. 16 runners. There is a bend after about a furlong, so the draw does tend to play into this. 13 of the last 18 winners have been drawn in single figures. Last year, the first 5 home were drawn 10, 3, 4, 5, and 2 in a 15-runner field. The year before that, they were drawn 5, 4, 3, 2, and 9 in a 13-runner field. If it did go soft, and I don't think it really will, that does, to a certain extent, negate the draw a little bit. There are some... The 4-year-olds have tended to hold sway in this as well. And the yards that are written, Gosden's got a good record in this. 12 of the last 13 winners scored at a right-handed track, which is a rather odd stat. And the odd ones out would be Bolshoi, Ballet, Certain Lad, Poker Face, and Check and Challenge. They've never scored right-handed. But there's only been 3 outright favourites in the last 25 years. 2015 was the last one. That was Marsoub. Quite like the favourite this year at Buckaroo. He was 4th in a Group 1 last time out. He's won listed stakes twice at a mile. Don't think he'll have any problems with this. 4 to 1's a bit tight. I'd probably use him maybe as a saver or something like that in some way. I agree with Ian. Definitely want to be on the side of Francesco Clementi. He lost his unbeaten record last time out at Goodwood, but he just didn't fail to handle the track. The top bend, I mean, he was all over the place. He was like some of those drunks you see at Lingfield on your day out, Ian. You know, he was all over the shop. Probably like Shaz on the, Shaz after the gins on it, all over the shop. I don't think the court.
I keep an air of decorum, Andy. The rest of them don't have any.
Yeah, I don't think the course suited that one at all. So I definitely have that on the short list. Bolshoi Bally was 3rd of 7 last time out in a Group 3 at Newbury. He's got a host that they've got him. If you look at his entries, they've got him in a host of Group 1 races. So it's quite interesting they run him here. As I say, you can never write Aiden and Ryan Moore off. Saga is the sort of number 2 from the Gosden yard. Now he was 2nd to King of Conquest last time out at Newmarket. It's actually a little bit unlucky, but I think if you would probably go over a cliff making excuses for this horse. I think he's a bit of a hound.
It's a bit of a pig, really, Andy.
I think he's a bit of a hound. He was 2nd in the Britannia last year. He's unexposed, but beyond the mile, but he can be a bit slow away. The profile overall is a bit patchy, and he has drifted like an absolute barge, even though he's a Dettori mount. Last time I looked, he was about 6'2", 6'4" last night. Drifted all the way at.
I looked this
9,
morning,
8, 10 and a half now. Yeah. The other one I like in this is Cadillac. Now he came back to form last time out in a really slowly run handicap at Epsom, where they put the cheek pieces on him first time out. And just a little word here. I won't say who it was, but there was someone on a analysis program who was wetting themselves about the fact that George Bowie had 2 winners at the Epsom Derby meeting with putting cheek pieces on them first time out. He won the big sprint with one of them, and this one won as well. Actually, if you go and look at George Bowie's record with putting cheek pieces on first time out, it's not that great. So it was like a real recency bias one, that. So if you're ever looking at stats, do go and look at them rather more deeply than just taking the last 2 runs. But it was a good run from Cadillac. He came from way off the pace in a slowly run handicap. He was actually 2nd in this last year. Going back a couple of years, he won a Group 2 in 2021. He is a decent horse. I like the booking of James McDonald. I like the drawing 4. I think he should be a bit shorter than 12 and a half on here. He'd certainly be the other one I'd back in the race. So respect the favourite, Buckaroo. Don't like Saga, Cadillac, and Francesco Clementi would be my 2 against the field.
Okay.
Well, it looks like we're going to agree for the first time, Ian, because it's King of Conquest for me. I picked that out last night.
The cocaine's wearing off, see?
Yeah. Go get another 8 ball in a minute. Yeah, obviously Francesco had directional problems last time out, but she was unlucky to lose. Just at the prices, it'll be King of Conquest for me. The other one that it did go very badly wrong last year in the Champion Stakes with Royal Champion, but if I was to back that, it would only be for pennies. And for me, I will be trading Saga in running, and if it goes below evens money, I will be laying it for minutes because I think it's an absolute dodge pot.
And Scott, having been booed off stage, is coming back. I think he's aiming that at you, Andy. But having been booed off stage once, he's come back for a bit more. The eggs are out.
I think he's having a go at the old person.
Alan Enders has said he's backed the Gosden horse. I don't know. There's two of them, isn't there?
There's two of them.
I don't know which one he's backed.
Saga. Is he having a pop at me? Saga. I've only It's for the over 60s.
Yeah. Alan, put the Fosters down. Put the Fosters down. Son.
I just like all those little concessions you can get when you're over 60.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm years away, son. Right, and then we move on to the. He's back to Clemente. He's back to Francesco Clemente. Unfortunately, Alan, that's going to get chewed up once again by King of Conquest, like he did last time. Right, and then we come to the last. We've got Willie Mullins has got hot favourite Vauban in this. I don't have a massive view on the race. The one I would be, my wheelbarrows are full. I will be sipping Bollinger by this time now. Oh, by the way, Dave, I don't know whether Dave's tuned in. Dave's at Royal Ascot. Hope you have a lovely day, Dave, and didn't get an invite. None of us got an invite. Just talking to him yesterday, went, I'm going Royal Ascot tomorrow. I'll enjoy the show. You enjoy yourself, Dave. I'll keep working. You just go out swilling Bollinger and enjoying yourself. But yeah, I like Postilio, James Doyle, a jockey I really like. I'm going for a little stab at Postilio in the 6:10. Okay. We'll let you go, Mark. Andy can finish us all up.
Yeah. I think Vauban, if I was going to back any of the Mullins ones today, which I will not be doing, this would be the one. Am I right in saying that they're on about taking this to the Melbourne Cup, Andy?
That's what they think. It's not the greatest hurdler, is it? No. Jumper of hurdles is what I'm.
But it finished third in the champion hurdle behind that machine.
Fourth in the champion.
Fourth, sorry. Which it probably wouldn't have won if it had an Uber. So against Hill.
It wasn't.
Like I said, if I was going to back any of the Mullins faves today, this would be the one. However, I won't be backing it. I don't really have too much of an opinion in this race at all. And I will be having a small each way play on Get Shirty. He won the Old Newton Cup last year. And then I think it was favourite for the Ebo, and it finished just out of the places. They've put a tongue tie back on it today. I'm just giving it a chance at those prices. Probably try and get some extra places on that if I can get pennies on with it with a bookmaker somewhere.
Okay.
He won this race last year. Get Shirty. He won this race last year. Get Shirty. Right. Okay. I sort of
before you go, we've got Chris Birch, Berkshire, Rocco to play. So I actually looked at that and didn't think it. I thought it had a little squeak myself. I'll be honest, that one. But I went for Postilio in the end.
The one place you don't want to back Berkshire Rocco is if they take it back to Newcastle, because the only place that should be running, the only time it should go to Newcastle, if they put it in there, they should be putting it in the Burgers there, because it just doesn't act on the track. It might do a bit better here. My starting point here was trying to find one to take on the favourite, and the more I looked, the more I disappeared up my own backside. This is possibly a guide to the Ebor. Fujiara Prince, who won it in 2020, has went on and won that. He's one of those horses, and I've often, my little group I run, I've often heard me say this. It's one of those horses I don't want to back, but I don't want to lay it. And I quite often want to lay favourites. Runs here off a mark of 101. You can consider its hurdles mark is 160. If a bit of cod handicapping is probably pretty much well in here. Probably should run up a higher mark here. As Mark said, he was fourth at Champion Hurdle, beaten 15.5 lengths. And he saw Constitution's Hill backside there, and the rest of the time he was chasing around his stablemate State Man as well. He's not the greatest jumper of a hurdle, but obviously a very talented hurdler. He did win 2 out of 4 on the flat in France before he went hurdling. And I got a feeling the price on this might be controlled by how well Bring on the Night does in that 5 o'clock. Because I've got a feeling there'll be a few lumpy doubles floating around on the Mullins short pair today. A la Mr. Blogger. You know, they'll be all like, you know, all the lads will be out trying to punt this, 20 quid double, short. That's all bookmakers really want to take these days, and hopefully get one turned over. So I do imagine there'll be a few people back in Bring on the Night and Vauban in doubles. If the first one wins, I could see this being a bit shorter. Obviously, as Steve's already mentioned, that the fact that that Moore is on this one. I mean, he could have had he could have had River Tiber, Paddington, Bring on the Night, possibly Bolshoi Ballet. You can imagine what price this thing is going to go off if that's happened. So it's a price to keep an eye on. I look long and hard for something to try and beat it. Mullins has also got Absurd in the race, who is a two-time winner on the flat in France. Has gone close in listed races as well. Ran in a egg and spoon race over hurdles at Killarney recently. Won that easily. It's an interesting booking. Again, the price will be affected by what Dettori does earlier in the day. Ruling Dynasty was well back last time. It's only run 3 times. It won 6.5 lengths last time, beating 3-year-olds against the weight for age scale at Haydock last time out of 1 mile and 3. That was a pretty good run. The draw, I'm just slightly negative on it. There's been one winner. If you look at all the races over 1 mile and 6, the 1 mile and 6 star Ascot is literally just in front of the stands. So those drawn inside on the lower numbers do have a little bit of advantage. You can get parked out a little bit wide. So I looked at the draw stats. So there's not masses of races over here with over 1 mile and 6 with big fields since they've been running over this distance. But just taking the 1 mile and 6 races as a whole, there's only been one winner from stall 10 or more, or 10 plus, in 48 runners from there. But that winner did come in this race. That was Fujiwara Prince in 2020, who went on to win the Ebor. So he was a pretty decent horse. I wouldn't totally write off a really wide draw, but Postilio is drawn a net 16 now, because there's a couple come out. Slightly put me off. Chillingham I really like as a horse. Ed Bethel's yard going really well. Both his wins have come with cut. The ground wasn't as heavy as they said it was, as the official ground says it was last time out. Basically soft or good to soft, but he has won with some cut. Ruling Dynasty, I said, is an interesting horse. Point King I quite like. I looked at the really big prices. I noticed a few people have put Raymond Tusk up as a play. I went round and round in circles, to be honest with you. I'm just going to see what happens with the price on Vauban. If Moore's had a couple of winners, I'm actually just going to back this and just try and get myself out of it, because I think that'll be the trade to have. Certainly, if Bring on the Night wins, that will certainly shorten up. But I couldn't really find a bet. If somebody really forced me as an each way bet, I'd probably play Chillingham, because I think he's a young, improving horse who could just go beyond these. But most of the others, Ruling Dynasty, I like, but 5 to 1, 6 is too short now. There wasn't anything that stood out for me. I'd just keep an eye on Vauban's price and try and trade that if you get a few winners earlier on, and if it was really pushed, Chillingham.
Okay, right. If anyone is in the Derby area, there's a bloke who needs saving from a massive white powder. So if anybody is near, there's only 2 things here. He's either under a massive white powder, or a story in about 2 months, the police have raided a house in Derby, and it'll be like one of them stalker rooms. He's got pictures of Holly Doyle up everywhere with like newspaper cuttings and that. Steve is wishing us a successful day, and Steve is, if a push comes to shove, one on River Tiber, which I think has run well, and Callum has done some multiples on Frankie and Ryan. So to wrap up, what I'm going to do, we're going to go through the races, just give your bet of the race, just so that people don't have to scroll all the way back through. And then, Mark, you can top us off with a play spot and a lucky 15 for the guys who want to have a fun punt. And we can all say goodbye and do it all again tomorrow. Right, so 2:30 for me, it is Chindit. Andy?
Modern Games at the front of the market, triple time if you want to have a little bit of a punt on the big one.
Mark?
Mutasabek.
Easy for you to say. 305 is Tiber for me, River Tiber. Andy?
If I had to, River Tiber, but no strong feelings on the race whatsoever.
Bobsleigh for me. Bobsleigh.
340, I was all over Monacan, but that's been pulled out while we've been on air, so I am with Twilight Gleaming. Andy?
If it's as long as the ground's not gone to shit, then Twilight Calls at a price.
Mark?
Twilight Gleaming.
Yeah, lovely. The 420 at Paddington for me. Andrew?
Paddington are the two at the front end of the market, but I'm going to have I'm going to trade Cicero's Gift.
Cicero's Gift, Mark?
Galeron.
Going for it. Big prices. 5 o'clock, Zoffy for me with Calling the Wind and Novel Legend. There's the TriCast.
Novel Legend, a horse with no name, 2 against the field.
Okay.
5 o'clock, Fleurman, Nap.
Nap. That's the nap.
That is the nap.
5:35 for me is King of Conquest. I'd say this is probably my nap, so I'll stick my neck out. King of Conquest, 5:35.
King of Conquest for me as well.
Yeah.
I'd split stake Francesco Clementi and Cadillac.
Okay, and then the 6:10 Postilio is just a sort of tentative mention for me. Mark?
If I had to, Chillingham to a little bit of each way money, but watch that price on Vauban, because if Mr. Moore has had a good day and if he wins the 5 o'clock, that price is going to collapse.
Yeah.
It's Get Shirty, but it's for pennies.
Okay, Get Shirty for pennies. As Steve has said, and we have discussed this this week, other people have discussed this with me. You used to bet on the Queen's Hass, now you have to bet on the shirt colour tomorrow. There is a full range. They've all been pre-selected. I'm like the Queen. I've got all the outfits laid out, ready to go for the week. Right, Mark. Mark is now just going to finish off. For those of you who like to have a fun punt, he's going to give us some place pot and lucky 15 selections. Off you go, son.
Yeah, I've actually done a lucky 31, and I'm just going with the naps that I've the horses that I've given out, but I'll go back through them. But if we start with the play spot, you can perm these, which is what I've done this morning. So leg 1, and I'll just give you the horse numbers. It'll be 2 and 8.
I'm going to type these as you're doing. So leg 1 is what?
2 and 8.
Yeah.
Leg 2 is 4 and 17.
Yeah.
Leg 3, 14 and 19.
Yeah.
Leg 4, 4 and 6.
Yeah.
Leg 5, 3.
Just be on its own, yeah.
And leg 6 is 3 and 4.
Right, so 2 and 8, 4 and 17, 14 and 19, 4 and 6, 3, 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Right, I'm posting that in the chat, guys, so you've got that. So that'll pop up there any minute now. There you go.
And for my brain-busting lucky 31, where you'll not need Ultimate, you'll not need Andy, you'll not need anything. You'll just live a very, very comfortable life, doing exactly what you want. The selections I went through previously, so it'll be Mutasab Beck. I cannot say this horse's name for a love nor money. I won't have about 15 pints of lager and say that.
Might say it better.
I might do actually, yeah. Mutasab Beck in the 230, Bobsleigh in the 305.
Hold on, I'm typing this as well. 305 Bobsleigh, yeah.
340 Twilight Gleaming.
Yeah.
420 Galeron. And 5 o'clock, the Talking Horse Fleurman.
Talking Horse, listen to him, flipping it. And that is a lucky 31, and obviously you're advising
each way lucky 31.
But just bear in mind, people, if you do put that on, it's 62 bets. So if you did a 10p lucky 31, it's going to cost you £6.20. Lucky 31 each way. I'm posting that now, so there you go. So you've got all that, guys, on there. Right, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Mark. Look forward to tomorrow. Thank you, everybody who's come in. We've had sort of numbers have gone sort of from 50 up to 70 odd. So we've got a cult. This is what you call a cult following now. By the end of the week,
you sure you've got that right? Cult.
Yeah, end of the week we'll be crashing YouTube. Yeah. Callum, 1001 for the red shirt. It's not even a runner, son. There isn't one in the house. Right, thank you all. And we wouldn't, Alan Henders. We're going to finish on this. Is what Alan Henders thinks of you, Mark. There you go.
He's on the Kestrel super strength, isn't he?
Yeah. Right, thank you guys. We'll be back at 11:30 tomorrow. Thank you, you two. Good luck, everybody, today. Hope you have a cracking first day. If you get on Zoffy, you've got the wheelbarrow full and King of Conquest. There you go. Right, we'll see you all tomorrow
because we're spending this lucky 31, so I'll still be in the pub.
Okay, right. We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow, definitely. Ta-ra.